Hello.
Hey, what's up, man?
What up, dude? How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. Ready to get that coaching lesson going on right now.
All right, let me just turn off my stream here.
All right, yeah. Sounds good. Hear me like with playback and everything, and yourself. All right. So first of all, what uh, what exact league are you in? What division? I know you said Master League, but where exactly are you?
Um, it's Master 3, but really, truly, I'm probably more like Diamond 2. I learned a few all-ins and I got to Masters with that, but when I tried like macroing and setting my hotkeys and not doing F2, then I'm like Diamond.
Okay. Uh, oh, sorry. Yeah. Straight. Sorry, saving him 1 second.
Sure.
Stream. I had my audio muted, so you haven't heard anything he's saying. He's not actually quiet. It was just my audio was muted. But yeah, this is. I'm on a call right now with Sapien Gaming. This is going to be the coaching lesson for today, and he just said he's Masters 3, um, but he's been all-inning a lot to get here. So, from there, do you have a matchup today you want to focus on, Sapien?
Yeah, TVZ. I sent a few of my losses, some of the replays over, but I'm struggling a lot against like Widow Mines and Bio. Like I just suck against that, man.
Okay. Here, I'm gonna invite you to a group, and then did you? I haven't downloaded the replays, but did you title them by chance, or do you have them on in your folder still
Uh,
of StarCraft?
yep.
Because I could just make you the leader, and then you could just host the replays as well, like that.
Okay. Let's see. Okay.
So you,
Watch with
so
others.
you want to just focus on ZVT then, pretty much?
Yeah, definitely ZVT.
Okay.
My worst matchup by far.
All right. We'll just we can get through as many as possible, but I'll just be telling you, with your build, whatever you like. Because there are multiple ways to deal with it. Just keep that in mind. It doesn't have to be just like one thing to do. But we'll go through your build and see what like how you do things, and then I'll try and give you some like critiques on things you can improve, and maybe like easier ways to execute things.
Okay. For some reason, it's grayed out when I'm trying to watch with others. Unavailable while in party.
Okay,
What?
here. Try this. Try just doing loading up a replay right now in like a lobby. Just hit watch with others still, even though I'm out of the party now, and then you can maybe invite me after.
Oh, I think it's because they patched it today. Yeah, I can
Oh,
only see my
okay.
new ones.
Oh,
Stupid.
it's like the different version. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that sucks.
All right.
Here,
Oh,
let's just do this. Let's just do this. I'll just download your replays and we can load them up together at the same time, even though we won't be in the same replay.
okay.
All right, 1 second. All right. So how just I know this is not what we're doing today, but how are your other matchups going? Like your ZVZ and your ZVP?
Pretty bad too. Just all around, I'm not very good. But I'll say that with ZVZ, I'm reasonable at holding all ins, especially like 12 pools or, like quick Bane rushes, that kind of stuff, all the one base crap. So, uh, my win rate's a little bit better because there's a lot of guys all inning, but my ZVP is pretty bad too. But ZVT just lately with the new Widow Mines, I'm just like so inefficient. I end up losing my whole army to like 4 Widow Mines, all the time.
Yeah. No, it's against one of mine's like the. Are you going for like Ling Bane styles and stuff like that? And you're just
Yeah,
walking it.
Lingbane Muta.
Okay, and everything just like goes in and explodes, and then you're just like, oh, my army's dead.
Yep.
The best way you can fight against one of mine's, just like throwing us out there before we get into it, is you just grab like chunks of your army, not the whole army, but you literally just green box like let's say like 5 Banes or like 6 Banes and like 15 Lings, and you just run it at the bio where the Widow Mines are, and you try. What you try to do is you try to just set off the mines, as many as you
Like
can.
friendly fire it.
Yeah. Like he has to. He if you the reason why you have to grab some Banes and some of your Lings is because the Lings will make the bio have to shoot the Lings before they shoot the Banes, which buys you more time for his Widow Mites to also go off. And then the Banes, they actually make the bio have to run away from the Lings, because if they don't and they just stand there, there's a good chance your Banes anyways will just like kill the bio. So having a little bit of army over and over attacking the, a little bit of your army running into the bio minefield is a good way to set off his mines and make it all, like you just get rid of them and then you fully engage after.
Right.
And then, yeah, I don't know. It's more efficient than running it all in at once and having like a one Widowmine hit kill like 40 units and you're like, oh, that sucks. Alright.
Yeah, man.
Alright, all the replays loaded up. I got the 4 of them. So you let me know whatever one you want to start with and we can get into it.
Okay, why don't we do the ZVT Game of Throws? Because this is a pretty classic one for me.
Alright. So when we get into this, I'm gonna probably leave it on like ×2. And I'll try to keep you updated with like timestamps. Kind of sucks that the patch made this harder for us, but I'll try to keep you updated with where I'm at, so you're able to follow along.
All right. I got mine loaded up. You can just. You said you're gonna go ×2?
Yeah, mine's still loading.
Okay. I'll wait for you.
All right, I just got in. I'm gonna watch this from your perspective as well, so I get a good. Like a good understanding of your scouting as well, and like what you should be reacting to.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna hit play right now on ×2, and yeah, you don't have to watch it necessarily from your player camera, but I am gonna watch it from your overall player perspective, like your vision of the map. So,
okay.
So yeah, if you don't want to watch your camera movements during the game, you don't have to do that. But with the game being started in a ZVT, are you like? Looks like you're a standard opener, which is totally fine. I like the hatch first style. I would say here, I'm gonna pause it really fast. So we can talk about something really quickly.
Okay.
I do really like 16 hatches, which is what you did this game in Zerg versus Zerg and Zerg versus Protoss. I don't like it as much in Zerg versus Terran, and the only reason why is because the whole purpose of a 16 hatch is the armor of the hatchery if you get all in. And against Zerg, there are... well, okay, so with Zerg, the armor of the hatchery is what matters. You have to worry about someone who, like, 12 pulls you, because if the hatchery is in a big egg bubble, like what it is now when it's building, it doesn't actually have armor. So the Lings beat the crap out of it way harder, so if you expand later, there's a good chance your hatchery gets killed. Against Protoss, a lot of probes like to come after the first pylon, and they'll actually be annoying and block your hatchery if you don't go 16 hatch. But against Terran, the SCV actually doesn't get to your base nearly as fast, because the difference between a probe and an SCV is a probe can build a pylon and run away immediately, but an SCV has to stay until the depot's done. So there's very little to no chance of an SCV blocking your hatchery before a 17 hatch. And there's no chance of a Marine shooting your hatchery before it's done, if you even 17 hatch as well. It's nothing like a Zerg rush. So what basically my whole point here is I personally prefer 17 hatches in ZVT, because it does actually give you a little bit better of an economy, a little bit faster. Just it's a minor change, but I would recommend you do it, because I feel like it's something that over time, you know, it'll help you out a little bit. It'll give you a little bit of extra money to get your build kind of like boosted a little bit faster.
Yeah, so I switched from 17 to 16 so that I can do the third hatch before Overlord. So I make the third hatch on 21 of 22 supply. I just basically copied Sarah's Teja, his Laceril versus Teja build from Home Story. So I just copied that. Okay.
So you like to go 3 hatch gasless? Or does he take a gas with this?
Yeah, it takes a gas.
Alright, okay, let's keep going then. I'll keep watching. But yeah, it's a minor thing, but yeah. I'm gonna hit play right now.
Okay. I'm at 117.
Alright, I'm at 115.
Okay, I'll slow down for a sec, and there.
Alright.
Okay.
Oh, no, I see. I got you. I thought you were saying you just drone up as hard as you can to 21 and then you take a third hatch. But you still get gas pool before.
Gas pool, queen, laying, and then hatch.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I like that. That's good. I would say, honestly, though, 16 hatch, 17 hatch, it's not that big of a difference, but I would still recommend 17 hatch. Because there's no downside to it against Terran.
Okay. I'm taking notes on my end here, too. go 17.
All right, so you get speed it with 1 drone of gas. I like it so far.
A new queen has emerged.
One thing I'll recommend
Oops.
is here, let's pause it one more time. Right now I'm at 255.
Okay, same.
So one thing I would recommend is your first overlord. I don't mind that you opened up with your the scout being at the bottom of his natural and saying just to make sure he expanded, and then you back it off. This is a guaranteed way that your overlord is not going to die if your opponent goes for a marine opener. There's no way it could die right now unless he like lifted the command center off and went over there and killed it like that, which would be kind of a waste for Terran. But if you're gonna keep the overlord defensive like this, okay, like you're gonna keep it to where it's like just barely gonna scout something to for a little bit of information for you, and then it's gonna go hide. You should always follow your second overlord across the map as soon as possible if that's what you're gonna do with your first one.
Right.
You kind of have two choices here. The first choice is your first overlord kind of gets suicidal, and it dives a little bit harder. Like, it'll actually scout the ramp as well. If you see, like, a guy who's going 1-1-1 opener with, like, Hellion Banshee, your Overlord can scout all of that, and it won't even die at all. There's very unlikely going to be a Marine there, because the barracks is going to be busy building a reactor for the factory, and then a tech lab for the starport. And you'll see all of this, so you can react a lot sooner. But that also has... The Overlord, if you do that, if he opens up Marines at all, you have a risk of losing it. So, if you want to scout like this, again, it's totally fine. Just like I said before, have your second overlord go kind of like near the, like your overlord right now. See how it's sitting between the third and the natural? Like you can see the third mineral lane.
Yep.
You would want your other overlord to be the exact same spot on the opposite side. So you'd want it to be between like the main and the fourth.
Right.
Of that mineral lane. You want to like then you want to scout the ramp from the cliff side there and be like, all right, what are you doing exactly? So
yeah, and this is a huge problem I have because a lot of times I'll try to sack at like 3:30 and it just dies. I end up seeing nothing, and my third overlord isn't really doing shit, and I don't have roaches in time, so it's a big problem for me for sure.
So yeah, exactly. So it's like I said, it's okay if you do it the way you did. Just make sure you always send 2 then, and you can try and keep them both alive by keeping them both on the edges. And if you ever see a factory, I would highly recommend always reacting with the roach ward immediately.
Yeah.
If it's a factory before a second barracks. All right, we can hit play again.
All right, go.
I do like that you only made 4 lings when you're joining up. Still, the perfect time to make lings above 4, if you're playing against like most standard openers of like factory opening Terrans, would be when your speed is about like right now, like around 60 seconds done. I'm gonna pause it one more time really fast because I just got here. I'm at 332.
Okay.
But like right now is like the perfect time that you would actually be like, all right, I'm gonna start making some lings now, and you don't need to make that many either. If this were a factory opener, you would need to make like an additional like 6 to 8 lings on top of your 4, so you go up to like 10 or 12 lings in total, and that's more than enough to be fine, especially if you have like 1 or 2 queens there as well that can also shove the Hellions away.
So 10 to 12 lings plus Roach Warren?
If he goes, yes.
If reactor factory?
Yeah, because what's going to happen is, here, I'm gonna look at everyone's vision really fast. I'm going to see what this guy's doing. And he's actually not going reactor factory. He's going for a kind of an interesting build. He's going reactor to barracks into a tech lab factory with a second barracks now starting. It's an interesting build. Scouting this would be weird. I'd be like, okay, it's going to be like a bio-tank defensive is what I would think.
It's like 2-on-1 without a starport?
Yeah, well, it's not even 2-on-1 because the second barracks is like after the factory. So it's a bit... It's like seeing this build would be like, this guy's going to be ultra defensive. That's what I would think. Like there's no chance for him to do a timing because if he tried to move out, he wouldn't have medivacs. And that's like the worst kind of time you can do with Terran against Zerg. But anyways, going back to your build. In like most standard setups, I would say probably like 70% of Terrans are all about the quick Hellion openers into that can also transition into whatever they want. They can go mech out of that. They can go bio out of that. But a lot of times it's just like fast 4 Hellions to 6 Hellions with a Reaper. It's really, really standard. And if you scouted that, you at this point in time right now, when your speed is almost done, you would have a Roach Warren that's probably like a third of the way done right now. Or like halfway done. So you would not have Roaches in time. If this Terran player was the kind of Terran who's like going to rush your natural with his first 4 Hellions. And then roast as many drones as he can. So that's where you'd be like, all right, I'm gonna make like 8 to 12 lings, or like sorry, like 10 to 12 lings, and you know, like then you'd let him commit into your natural and like surround it and stuff like that and kill it. Otherwise, you can like scout periodically around the map with 1 or 2 of those lings and be like, are you trying to take a greedy third base? What are you doing? Because you're not really doing anything anyways. So
Right.
at this point.
And do you think I should be putting back on gas right around this time?
You should be putting back on gas when you're fully saturated on 2 bases. So yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
And then you should actually take gas number 2 when your third base starts getting saturated as well, for like most standard opener styles, which is what you're doing. You're doing a 2 base into a kind of a nicely timed third. So your build's very standard.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna hit play again right now.
All right.
All right, so now I like that you're poking the front too. You should always be poking the front with your Zergling, because a lot of times Terrans like to put their command center to wall the front, and it also, you can scout their composition too. So you can be like, does this guy have a lot of Marines? Does he have a lot of Hellions? Does he have a Cyclone? Does he have tanks? It'll tell you a lot about their composition, in addition to Overlord scouting.
Okay. Yeah, it's something I try to do, but sometimes like in the moment I forget, and then it really screws me.
No worries. Hit pause again really fast. I'm at 446 right now.
Okay.
So right now, again, just we're harkening back here to the Overlord scouting. You're in a position where you scouted a bunker and a barracks. You don't actually see gas at his natural yet with your Overlord, but you do see a Terran that really hasn't shown you anything other than the possibility of a couple Marines in a bunker. So,
right.
So you're kind of panicking, and you're like, all right, I'm going to make fucking spores, because I don't know if this guy's going Banshees or not. But yeah, just big thing is that I try to make a lot of people aware of is you should never be afraid to scout your opponent, even at the cost of an Overlord. Because if you think about it like this, if you would have scouted earlier and you would have saw the opening that we saw together here just a second ago, we were talking about the Barracks Factory Barracks opener. You losing an Overlord is actually so much cheaper than building 3 spores like this.
Yeah.
So like that in itself is like a cost advantage for you if you actually scout properly. And then also on top of that, even though you still build the spores, that's not going to just be like a cure all, like now you're fine. You're still in the dark in terms of like, he might be going bio, he might be going mech, this might be like some weird Thor build, this could be a Hellion build, this could be just Marine build, this could be mass Banshees. Like you have this really uneasy feeling that is, what it does to you as a player is it makes you hesitate on everything you do, and it makes you play way slower. Like just in general, because you're always second guessing what you're doing. You're like, should I do that? I don't know, should I do this? Maybe I'll do that. So definitely, in addition to your build, 100%, just force yourself to do it. You can scout the first Overlord at the natural and be like, did they expand? Yes. Okay, cool. We're fine. Second Overlord should always just the best thing I would say you should do is rally your second Overlord to your natural until your natural is done. And the second your natural's done, send that thing, just literally like shift click it into his base. Just like click it to where like you want it to be initially outside of his base, and then shift click it in. So even if you forget. So if you remember to fix it, you can go back and be like, all right, I'm scouting his base, we'll fix it. But if you don't remember to fix it, you will just shift click it into his base for now until you get more comfortable with it, about being used to it. And then even if it dies and you're like, oh, well, I'm seeing what he's doing at least, it's still way more worth it, because then you'll actually have a proper response to the mid game, which it'll actually just do nothing but help you. All right.
Okay, good. I will do that.
Yeah, it's 100%. It'll help you out so much. All right, I'm gonna hit play right now again.
All right.
And now that you're saturated on, so I think your second gas was maybe a little bit delayed, and your third gas is maybe a little bit early. I would say your second gas should be started right as you start saturating your third base, and then you can take literally all the rest of your gases when you hit max saturation on all your bases, and you're still making drones.
Okay. I think in this instance I did it because I was supply blocked.
Okay, yeah.
So I was just like, whatever, blast something.
Okay, that's all good. But the biggest thing I would say is for the gas is you want to make sure you don't ever remove your minerals either. You want to make sure when you're making gases, you're taking like new drones to saturate them. You're not undersaturating your mineral lines for a while and then fixing them later. It'll help a lot with keeping your economy running really well.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna hit pause one more time again. I'm at 628.
Perfect. Me too.
So your curve spread in this game is not bad. It's all right. You got a nice, decent coverage of your third. But one tip I'm also going to give you is if we look at your overall queen count here, it's actually pretty good. You have 6. Okay, I actually for some reason thought you only had 4. But the biggest thing I would say here is we kind of were talking about this shit. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but out of your natural is where I think all your queens should come from, other than your first queen from your main. So your first 2 queens go main and natural together, and then you make like 4 more queens out of your natural, one by one by one by one. And the reason why I would say you do this is because it gives you a good pacing of spinning your minerals, so that you don't have to delay your larva when you have them, rather than making like double queens at a time out of your main natural, main natural, main natural. Because if you do that, you're always going to have like 3 or 4 larvae just sitting there, not able to mine. And every time you have too much larvae, you're just generating money more, like slower and slower, throughout the whole entire game now, because it's setting the pace for your drone count. Because you're delaying them basically. Because there's like the best way I can say this is there's a limitation on how fast you can build your drones, and it comes down to how fast larva literally spawns out of the hatchery. That's the limitation. But if anything you limit yourself further beyond that, if you're like do things that delay the larvae from being used because you're having other expenses that don't necessarily need to be spent right now, it's just extra delays, which actually sets the pace for your Zerg build even slower. So if you're not already doing that, I highly recommend doing that. Just have a pace of 1 queen at a time after the first 2. And then the first queen that you make, the third queen, the first extra queen you make out of the natural, can first lay a tumor and then go to the third to eject. And then the next 3, or sorry, the next 2, which takes you up to 6. Those extra queens could be, or I said that wrong. You know what I mean, though. I'm talking about like once you have 6 queens. Sorry. The other extra
just
queens,
queue them up from the net.
Yeah, the other queens just become creep starting queens, and it'll expedite everything and make it all great. One big thing I would recommend as well, though, is put one of your extra, like not your very first tumor, but maybe your second tumor. I would highly recommend if you put it on like your ramp at your natural, going back towards into your main, and you'd spread creep all over that open airspace that's like fogged out right now into your main too. It's gonna I guarantee there's gonna be games you're gonna lose if you don't do that, because the Terran will drop your main and you'll just be unprepared for it, and you'll just lose too much, and you'll be like, oh shit, I didn't know that was there, and now that sucks.
Yeah, for sure. That's happened plenty of times.
So,
the Helia drops and things like that.
It sucks, because not only does it give you vision, but it also gives you so much extra mobility to actually defend a drop in your main with queens and lings. So it's super important.
Okay.
All right, we can. And then talking about this timing here really fast. You have been a little, like I said before, the scouting thing is hurting you a lot here because you didn't actually know what to expect until like right now. But right now, you only have 15 lings, and you have a few banes in production. I'm about to see how you're about to defend this, but I'm going to tell you the 2 ways of how this is going to go down really fast. The first way is you panic, you attack right when those banes finish, and you lose this fight most likely, unless this Terran has really horrible micro. Because you'll actually bleed your army out way too hard. The crazy thing about bio tank marine is it is actually worth so much more value if you engage it into like staggered forces. Like you can have the same supply of bio tank and marine versus just Ling Bane, and there's a very high chance bio tank marine is going to crush Ling Bane. And then if you like make a new army and you fight again with the same supply, it's going to crush your army. But if you actually overwhelm it, you'll crush it instead. The only way you really crush Biotank Marine is if you have some type of a flank going on, and right now you're definitely not going to have a flank going on because it's really early. So I would say the best way to fight this would be to be super patient, chill the fuck out. Just don't be like, okay, he's attacking my hatchery, it's okay. Maybe you evacuate your gases to the middle line so they don't get killed by the tanks, and you just wait until you have this whole next round of lings out to fight this. 'Cause you want to be able to swarm it and overwhelm it rather than trickle into it.
Right, and I definitely don't want to chase it off the creep, right?
Yeah, you don't want to do that. You like the biggest thing about ZVT is you want to always take fights on creep whenever your Terran opponent pushes you, because your efficiency of those fights is going to be like increased by like 25%. Like you're going to lose so much less because you engage so much faster. So yeah, I'll go ahead and play and see how you do this, but
it's probably going to be bad.
I'll play right now. Let's see how you do it.
All right.
Yeah, It wasn't that bad. You did get shot by a tank a couple times, but you are being patient. I like this so much more. You want to be able to swarm and overwhelm. I like that you're delaying it. Because the hatchery's going to live for a while. But now's the time to go. Perfect. You actually did that pretty good, man.
Oh, thank God. I thought I was about to embarrass myself for everyone.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and pause one more time. I'm at 7:15. So that was fucking actually great. There's a lot of people that make the mistake of they're like, oh my God, he's here, I gotta go now, and then they just throw it all away. They throw it away, throw it away, throw it away, and it's just like, if you would have waited and you would have sacrificed maybe like 500 to 1,000 hit points on your hatchery, but you save it before it dies, you actually save so much more larva when you do that. Because all you need that is one fight where you swarm the army and you kill it like you just did, rather than being like, all right, I'm gonna send 10 larvae worth of lings at it, and then I killed maybe a third of his army. I'm gonna do it again. I killed another third of his army. I'm gonna do it again. Okay, now I finally overpowered it at like 3 times the larva required as to what it would have been if I would have just waited for a moment to swarm it. So you did it great there. You did good job. That was fucking well done.
All right. Thank you.
But from here now, there's this big alarm that should be going off in your head. Like this, like the big problem right now is this guy just killed some of your creep. He receded the creep back to basically hatchery based creep here at part of it. Like if you look at the gases above your third, that creep is like hatchery spread creep only. It's not actually tumor creep. So you definitely need to expedite this creep spread by maybe like having both of those queens or 2 of those 3 queens like drop full energy here to make like 8 or 9 tumors. I need to get that shit going quickly.
Yeah, so I have a question on, like, I know that for sure, and this is a huge leak in my game is re-spreading the creep, because it's like it's out of my muscle memory to do that.
Yeah.
And then like, you know, my APM is kind of crap, so I can't. I never know what to decide to do. Like, is spreading creep more important than, you know, chasing these reinforcements or hitting my larva, because I can't do them all, so I have a hard time picking what to do with my limited APM.
I would say this would be your priority list right now. Priority number 1 is to pay attention to your lings for just a second, because the fight is actually still going on, and then but you're about to kill the last couple Marines, the last tank, and then it's fine. Then you do not worry at all about like attacking his base or anything like that. Just chill for a second on that. You've killed the army, you defended properly, you're good to go. The next thing you should be focusing on 100% is your injects. Like, go back to your hatcheries and make sure every single queen is injecting right now and is not sitting there with like 80 energy, 100 energy, or whatever, however long this fight went for. Make sure you're spending that energy if you haven't been doing it during the fight. So that's number 2. Number 3 is spinning the larva you then have at the hatcheries. So you don't want to also have a situation where you have like 15 larvae just sitting there and like 800 to 1,000 minerals in the bank. You want to make sure you're spinning your larva as soon as possible. And then finally after that, you then want to be creep spreading. But creep spreading is going to be something that is super important in general. Even though I said that first, it still has less priority over production. But it is something that is really important because you don't ever want to take fights off creep, which means the further you get the creep across the map, the more room it gives you to take the next fight that's going to happen in maybe 1 or 2 minutes from now or 3 minutes from now.
Right.
Depending on how your opponent plays. And then after all of that, after you've spent the creep, injected your larva, made more units out of the larva, the best thing you could do then would be actually to scout base counts. So right now, you look at your base count, you have 3 going on 4. It would be great for you right now to see, does the Terran have 2 going on 3? Does he already have 3 fully going? Because you haven't seen his other potential third for a while. So, other than your first like Ling Scout earlier on. So
Right.
it'd be nice to get a reference as to what you're dealing with. Because first of all, defending your base, fantastic. Super good. It gives you like a breathing room to be like, all right, I can make a run of drones now, and we're good to go. Like I can drone now for the next like round of larva, basically, which means I could probably squeeze in like 15 drones, and that's going to basically fully saturate a base for a mineral line, basically. But now you really need to know how much base count is this guy on. Because if you were to then be like, you know what sounds good, I'm going to saturate my 4th, fully saturate that shit, put 22 drones on it, and we're going to call it a day. But if this guy is not on 3 bases and he's on 2 bases, you just turn yourself into a 4-base Zerg who's fighting a 4-base Zerg who's fighting a 2-base Terran, and there's a very high chance you lose the game there if he pushes you again, because now you're in a situation where you're like, oh, I don't have any units. All I have is drones. But if you would scout that he has a third CC, that 100% guarantees this guy does not have like 6 racks and is not going to all in you again. He's instead gone for a bit more of a timing push and gone into economy behind it to then try to further his production later on, which gives you breathing room to make drones. So finding out base count's huge. You want to know how many bases they're on is my point here.
Okay. Sounds good. And I'm also realizing in this game, and it's part of the question too. So, you know, if the guy didn't attack me there, my build wouldn't have got screwed up. Like I didn't upgrade and I didn't throw down my spire, so I have like no way to spend my gas.
It's all good.
And this happens a lot in my games, you know, like, yeah, I don't know if there's like some kind of like mental trick or something you do to know, like even when you're being attacked, like throw down your tech, don't leave your build order. Because I lose a lot of games like this.
Yeah. I'm gonna give you a tip here on the mutas, because I don't want you to get the wrong idea about them. They are good units, but they are definitely not units you should worry about rushing. Like I'm talking about, you should actually be making mutas around like 11 minutes. If you go.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
The way you should spend your gas. This is kind of how your gas should go, even though you're on 6 gases. So you go main, natural, third, and you have a 4th going, like you do. Your base count up to this point has been fine. I've had like no problem with your base count up to this point. But as soon as you hit a layer, you should definitely be immediately starting 1-1 and baneling speed. And then the second your 1-1 finishes and you start 2-2, you should be starting a infestation pit, and you should be getting ready to go into a hive. And when you get ready to go into a hive, that's when you should start the spire. And then as soon as you hit hive, you go 3-3 adrenal glands, and then you're making banelings throughout the middle game, the mid game process here. So you'll have stages where you might have like 400, 500, 600 gas that you may or may not choose to dump into a shitload of banes if the situation arises that it sounds like a good idea. But do not feel like you have to rush mutas. It's actually counterproductive to rush mutas in today's age of StarCraft, because mutas have so many more hard counters to them, like a ton of Widow Mines, or a Thor, or somebody goes Liberator Marine, or even someone who goes like fucking just mass bio. Mutas don't perform as well as other things. So if you rush mutas, you're putting yourself in this defensive hard position all the time. Because you don't have enough Link Bane to swarm and overwhelm.
Okay, that'll be a huge... I mean, that makes a lot of sense. For whatever reason, I just felt like, oh, just Ling Bane, I'm gonna lose if that's all I have.
But... Oh, you'll totally win, dude. I actually have a style in my ZVT where I was going Ling Bane meta for a long time, and I wouldn't make mutas until after I maxed. So I would make mutas with the remax. And I would win a lot of games against like 5,500 Terrans doing that.
Okay.
Like Ling Bane is super solid because Ling Bane gives you way more map control than mutas do. It sounds weird, but they do, because if the more Ling Bane you have, the more attempts at little tiny counterattacks that you can apply, and also the more of a good engagement you'll take on creep if your opponent's going for an army that's like Marine Tank Mine or Marine Tank Medivac, you know, stuff like that. Just like standard ground bio with a little bit of factory support. Ling Bane will swarm and just take a dump all over that kind of a composition for Terran. If the Terran's not maxed, which he definitely won't be if he's doing timing attacks early on in the game. And, you know, you're playing standard as well. It'll just be like if the guy, let's just say this, okay? Here's a good way to explain this. Let's say the Terran is at like 150 supply. And as Zerg, you're at 170 supply. And the Terran, in this composition, he's got almost as many SCVs as you have drones at this point. Let's just say 70, okay? You both have 70 workers. And then the Terran also has like 10 medivacs right now, or like 8 medivacs with his army. That alone, the medivac count alone is like it's gonna, what is that? It's gonna be like 16 to like 20 supply ish, like 8 to 10 medivacs. And that is the equivalent of
40,
32 to 40 banelings. So
yeah,
if you have, like, you're investing a lot of your gas into Ling Bane, or your resources, sorry, into Ling Bane, and you have just this overwhelming amount of banelings, it does not matter how many medivacs your opponent has, even though it sounds great to kill them with mutas. If you just burst down his bio, it doesn't fucking, everything just dies anyways at that point.
Right.
So he can have like, it'll be like, oh, I have like a push with like 50 Marines and 10 medevacs and some tanks. And then 40 of his 50 Marines die to the banelings immediately. And now you have like 75 Zerglings swarming 10 Marines and like 4 tanks. And like even some extra banelings left over that are trying to connect still. Like you'll crush the shit out of his army if you have that kind of a composition. It won't be a problem. Especially as well if your upgrades are good, because you're prioritizing upgrade, 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 hive, upgrade, upgrade. Like you're not delaying your upgrades at all, because you're not going like, oh, I'm gonna make some mutas really fast and then get my upgrades in a little bit. Like mutas,
Yeah, and
go ahead.
if I have twice as much Zerglings, I can get way sicker like flanks and surrounds and stuff.
Exactly,
too.
exactly. And
Right,
also
right in.
the good thing about Link Main too, if you prioritize it, is it's gonna teach you to prioritize creep spread, because it's such a, you're gonna realize how much of a buff creep spread is to Link Mains, because not only does it give you not only does creep spread give you good vision, but it gives you good, like you just said, ability to flank and surround and stuff. So it's huge if you play like that. It'll make you a much better Zerg. And then Muta should be more of a late game kill move than a mid game survival move.
Okay. Okay, that's huge. That's a huge change to the way I was thinking about it, and I
Yeah.
like it. It seems like more simple.
Yeah, it totally is. You'll love it. And then the last thing I'll say about it is, make sure if you're gonna go Link Main Muta, make sure you're upgrading Muta's attack even before you make them on the Spire. So like if you make a Spire right as you make an infestation pit to go into a hive, and you're starting your hive up, you're at right now 165 supply. I still don't recommend being like, okay, now you need to make like 15 mutas or like 10 mutas. What you should do instead is you should prioritize upgrades, like I said before, your 3/3, your adrenal, and you could also start getting weapons on your mutas, and then you could max out on Link Main for the first time. And then as soon as your Spire weapon's done, you can start level 2 weapons. And now let's say a big fight happens where you lose 80 supply and the Terran loses 80 supply, and you both have to now remax. Then you could be like, all right, you know what? Now I'll squeeze in like 15 mutas into my composition. But now these mutas are not going to be 0/0 mutas. That's delaying everything else. Instead, I have a little bit of a gas bank because all my upgrades are done now. So now my gas has nowhere to go. Now I can make my mutas without delaying anything else. And now I also can make like 15 mutas that have +2 weapons, and they're going to fucking wreck really hard compared to what they would have been if I would have made 0/0 mutas. So you kill things way faster, like his economy or his drops. The only time I would ever say you should prioritize getting mutas kind of early is if your opponent is that special kind of Terran that's like, I never attack you on the ground, I always drop, and I'm always trying to do like 3 at once the whole time, and Liberator harass or something like that. If he's that kind of a player, then that's okay. You don't have to max out on Link Bane. You could actually make some mutas before you max. That's like the only exception though.
Right. Okay, so just so I have this right, so I'm doing 2/2 infestation around 80 drones. Like I'm taking my 4th gases, 2/2 infestation, then hive spire, kind of.
Kind of, yeah. So let me just say it all really fast, and you can follow along and see if you got it the way I would recommend you do it, just to make sure there's no confusion. So I'm going to include your gas timings and your upgrade timings in this.
All right.
So your first gas is standard. Your standard opener, like 17, 17, 17, whatever the hell you want to do.
Yep.
You can deviate a little bit with this. It's fine with whatever you want. But you get your Zergling speed off of your gas, and then you take 2 drones off. Now you fully saturate your natural. Once you fully saturate your natural, you resaturate your main base, your gas. So you put 3 back on. Now you do not take Evo Chambers here. You don't take a layer immediately. You make a Bane Nest. You'd be fucking, or a Roach Warren, depending on what you see, what you think is going to be a good defensive opener here. Because you're going to be greedy, so you need some type of a fail-safe here. Then, as soon as you start saturating your 3rd, you take a 2nd gas. And then as soon as you have a little bit of excess gas, where it's like, okay, I know I'm safe, I'm not going to die, let's take a layer. Then you do that. Now, while you're making drones, once you have all 3 bases fully saturated, and you are now ready to make another round of drones, then you take all gas. Gases 3, 4, 5, 6. So the last 4 gases. As soon as you start making drones, after you're already saturated on 3 bases. Don't take the gases when you're like at 15 and 16 drones on each base, and you're not making drones yet, because then you're gonna detract from the mineral lines, and you definitely don't want that. You want to try to maintain 16 the whole time, and not deviate from that. So, again, the bigger thing here is, When you start making drones after you're fully saturated on 3 bases, then you take the last 4 gases. Then
Okay, so I should be like oversaturating
yeah. You should
to
be
make the
you should be
extractors,
making like up to 19 drones on each mineral line when you start the gases.
and then I should rally drones directly into the extractors.
Exactly. Like the new drones you make should actually saturate the gas, not rip off drones off the current mineral line, and then go from there.
Okay.
And then from that point on, as soon as you're like you have a little bit of money free while you're going into a layer, start 2 evos. That's when you start 2 evos. And then you can start your upgrades after you start Bane Link Speed. Bane Link Speed always takes priority if you're going to go Link Bane. Your next gas you have after Bane Link Speed that's not currently being used to make army to defend yourself goes into 1-1. Then do whatever you want to do in the mid game. Like, you can make Link, Bane, continue to do that, make drones. It kind of comes down to whatever you scout and whatever's happening in the game. But as soon as 1-1 is done and you start 2-2, then you start a Spire, you start an Infestation Pit, and then you start a Hive as soon as the Infestation Pit's done. And then you start your upgrade on your Spire as soon as it's done. And you just basically try to make sure you're never missing upgrades after you initially start 1-1. Because if you pace it like this, where you take the Infestation Pit when you start 2-2, and then you take the Hive right when your Infestation Pit's done, you'll never ever miss timing on the upgrade Evo Chamber timings. You'll always be like 1-1, go, done. 2-2, go, done. 3-3, go, done. It's perfect. So you'll be 3-3 by like 11 minutes. Or like 12 minutes.
Okay.
And then finally, the big thing about droning, which is why about your 4th with droning, which is why I didn't really just put that in the example here, is depending on how the game goes, like if your opponent takes a fight, throws an army away, and you're like, oh cool, I can take my 4th now, like saturate it, then cool, then you can. But if your opponent does not ever take a fight against you and throw an army away, it is not safe to be like, I'm gonna just drone my 4th now, because you could die if you do that, if you drone too hard. So it comes down to paying attention to what's going on, in the game, and reacting to it properly. And the biggest thing of all that I'm going to recommend you do, I guarantee you're going to need to do this, otherwise you're going to have too many resources. As soon as you fully saturate your 3 bases, you take 1 macro hatch. And as soon as you saturate your 4th base, take a 2nd macro hatch. 100%, 100% fucking do that. And inject the macro hatches with your queens whenever they have excess energy.
Okay, yeah, I never take the 2nd macro hatch.
Do that. You're gonna if you max out on Link Main, you're gonna have situations where you're like, I have like 2,000 minerals and I'm like 180 supply. I can't spend my money. So,
oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah, so you do the 2nd macro hatch. It'll help a lot. It'll help you swarm and like it'll make it to where like if your opponent pushes and this weird mid game timing at like 9 minutes or something or 8 minutes, you just crush.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
All right. I'm gonna go and hit play again. There's a lot of analysis there we had to talk about, but I'll start the replay again from here.
All right, 7:14.
Yeah, going right now. Good. All right, so you do push across the map, and you see that he doesn't have a 3rd. But again, the biggest thing to give you a quick rundown one more time is fixing your build right now is huge. So I like that you're not overcommitting here and trying to attack him and stuff like that. Your army's in a scary spot, but it's okay. You actually just got in a big ass push, so I like that you're now reacting by making an army. But your creep spread, I would say, is the biggest downfall here. You definitely you did macro, which is great. You spent your money, you made some more drones. You have a good healthy drone count of 86 to 35, but you just don't have enough creep spread to take a good fight now. Like there's a chance you might get a worse trade now because of the creep.
Oh yeah, I lose this game, just to be clear.
Yeah, I feel like the creep is why you're gonna lose.
Okay.
And also the mutas. About the reasons why we just talked about.
Hey, your base is under attack. It's a trap.
Yeah, too early. Oh god, this is so embarrassing. Why am I chasing?
I'm gonna pause it one more time really fast. Really quick.
Right, it's over anyway. I had GG on it.
So, with the way you did this, I'll tell you right now the perfect way you should have done this with what you had, and I'll try to make you understand and explain. So first of all, we already know that creep spread is why you lost. Like, if you just would have gone link bane with good creep spread, you would have taken that fight in a situation where you could have actually flanked him from 2 sides, and you would have just swarmed the army, killed it, and you would have easily won, and then there you go, you're done. But because you went mutas, this is how you should have played that. Keep your link bane defensive, and do not move out. Just sit there, and literally, if he waits long enough to where you max, then you max. Because there's no downside for you in this situation, because you 100% know you have way better economy than him. So there's 2 things that should be on your mind here. One is his army supply is going to be deceivingly large right now because he's not made nearly as much economy as you. So if you have 80 drones and he's got 35 SCVs, he could have like 40 supply there that for some reason, like, you know, that's you're not really thinking about. But you're like, oh, he didn't make economy at all. So he's got way more army supply than he should right now. So his army is actually way scarier than it should be. But right. the weakness of his army is he cannot remax. Like, if you actually beat his army 1 time, he's dead. Because your remax is way better than his. And so it could be like, the first time you fight him, you could be at 200 supply, and he could be at 160. And then you fight, you lose 100 supply, he loses 100 supply. And then you're now in a situation where you've remaxed back up, or you've had a good surge of units. You're back at 170 supply, and the Terran's now at 90. Because he has no economy to work with here. So you're like, oh, now it's fucking easy. Now I just fight like a very tiny army and I just win. So being patient is number 1. Biggest thing you could have done here would be more patient and like bank up your money way better here, because you can see in the economy tab, if you hit I on the keyboard right now, you have like triple his economy. So just like being patient with that, letting that actually give you more of an advantage would have been great. And the second part would be if these mutas actually didn't go into the fight with the units, if instead what they did is they wrapped around his army and actually cut off, like if you hit everyone's vision here really fast to look at the whole screen, look at if your mutas would have flew up and left and cut off his reinforcements. You could actually have like 10 to 12 mutas or whatever, however many you had. You have 9 right now. I don't know if you lost any, but you could have these mutas killing rallied marines and rallied tanks, which puts the Terran in a situation where he's taking bad trades now against your mutas because he's just rallying into them. And it puts him in a, like, oh shit, I gotta do something quick here. And it might make your Terran overextend and run onto creep for you, and then you can kill him that way. Rather than trying to attack him when he's like pre-spread and in the middle of no creep. So
right, yeah.
I would say you would want to make him feel pressured rather than you feeling pressured. There's no reason why you should feel pressured here.
Yeah, and it's so embarrassing because I think I just end up leaving this game, but like I could have just lost this hatch now that I see he doesn't have a 3rd.
Yeah, 100%. Like that's what I was talking about. If you remember before when I was like the priority list, and one of those priorities was looking at his base count, that would give you so much information to be like, oh, okay, well, I'm in a way more advantageous position here because a 2-base Terran is fighting a 4-base Zerg, which means if you look at the income tab, memorize these numbers. They're huge. This gives you so much more understanding of the game. You're mining at almost triple the rate that he is, because if you think about it like this too, if this guy's on 2 bases and you're on 4 bases, look at your main really fast. That shit is not fully saturated anymore because the patches are mining out. Look at your natural and click on some of the small patches. One of them has
like
70. Exactly, like it's starting to mine out. And what you got to think about as well is Terran has mules, which make that shit mine out even faster. So it's going to give him a little bit more now, but it's going to make his economy shittier later if he doesn't expand again. Because the mules are just going to mine him out even quicker. So his economy is, like, the longer this takes where he does not expand, the more you should feel in a commanding lead if you just sit back and go, all right, I'll wait till the last moment that you're on creep, and then I'll attack. You're on creep, I'll attack. And you just take great trades like that. You'll have so much more success if you have that mindset of just being like, I am winning the game if I have more bases than you. If I just take defensive fights.
Right. Yep. Okay. Okay. No, that's very good.
Yeah.
So I have another replay that's like this, but my build goes better, but I just take a lot worse fights, and my opponent's way better. Like, okay. I should have never lost this game. It's so embarrassing.
No, I think you 100% should have won that game too, but it's okay. It's a good example. I feel like it shows a little bit of problems with your play because you're just prioritizing on a couple of things incorrectly.
Right.
But I feel like after what we just talked about, hopefully you have a new mindset on it and you're like, okay, yeah, that sounds pretty good. I feel like I can, like, it's things you feel like you can fix.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, good.
And I think just the whole idea of just stick to Ling Bane, upgrade the shit out of them, get 2 macro hatches, um, and go for mutas way later, prioritize tech. Like that's a whole different. Because so many times I actually get stuck on muta Ling Bane and I never go hive
Yeah.
because I'm just like stuck in the
Yo,
mid game,
by the way,
and that's pretty shitty too.
Terran and Concordia, thank you guys for the subs
Oh,
very much.
okay.
And
Trying to log
Twistonics,
in.
thank you
I
for the
apparently
bits.
forgot my
I
password.
muted
Okay, there
my
we go.
Discord really fast. But thank you guys. I appreciate it.
So maybe just quickly as the last replay, the one ZVT won but played so bad.
Okay, let's do it.
All right.
Oh man. But yeah, your ZVT has good like fundamentals though. Like that's good. They're really good for you to start off with. Because there are some times throughout these games where I'll see someone where it's like, all right, I'm gonna tell you what you should be focusing on, and there's a lot of things you need to fix because you have a lot of problems here. But when I was watching you, you made a few good moves there, and your macro overall was not bad.
Okay, thanks. All right, so I'm loaded up. I'm ready when you are.
Yeah, same. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and go to your vision again, and then I'm gonna go on ×2 again right now.
All right.
Yo, Fergus, thank you very much, dude.
Keep up the Zerg
So yeah, and the other
instruction,
thing
please.
too is maybe just as this gets going, just like getting frazzled, I feel is a huge thing. Like I have some replays where it's so ridiculous that I'm floating 800 minerals in the middle of a game because the guy has a Liberator on one side and Hellions on the other.
Yeah.
So is there anything you could do to just take a step back and not get so stressed and frazzled when you're like getting multi-pronged and stuff? Is there any kind of trick?
Pause it really fast, and I'll give you a recommendation here.
All right.
If your opponent is the kind of player who is gonna multi-prong you the whole time, and you're just gonna be like, you feel like you're getting like a yo-yo, you're going up down on your base, you're just always getting pulled to the other side. The best thing you can do, or one thing you can do, is defensively put a rally point in your base. Try to get in the habit of doing this, especially against Terran. Just put a rally point in your base, and that's going to be your destination where your units go whenever you build them. And if you're like, okay, well, this guy's going to drop me here and here, here and here, here and here, over and over. Try your best. If you're in the habit of being like an F2er, like a select all army kind of guy, try to stop doing that. And what you do instead is you go to your pool of units, and you go, all right, send some stuff up there. Good. Leave it there. We're done. We just defended it the first time, but we're now going to leave it there in case it comes back again. And then go back to your pool of units and then send it to the other side of the map with some new units. And be like, all right, I'm going to send it over there. We're going to call it a day. Leave it there for now. Because, what this will do for you is you'll dedicate some supply to defend some supply, rather than dedicating all supply to defend some supply and being out of position in other locations. And then being like, okay, now other supply. Run down there. Now other supply. Run up here. So you just literally send some shit somewhere to your base and you leave it there. Just leave it there. And this could be a queen. This could be some Ling Bane. And you could even be, if it's something like a Liberator, you could even add in like a spore or a couple spores. If your opponent's going to be the kind of guy who continues to harass you. But ultimately, what this kind of comes down to is minimap awareness as well. So you kind of, if you ever look at the minimap and say to yourself, I don't really feel like I see a lot of this minimap. Like I don't have really good spread in the airspace. I don't really have good creep spread in the ground area. Those are things you can fix. You can then tell yourself in future games, let's prioritize a little bit more on your creep spread and prioritize a little bit more on proper overlord spread, so that you can have some decent vision going on to be like, okay, well now, if I don't see it, it's because I just literally neglected looking at the minimap, but I have the ability to see it because I actually see that part of the map. So it kind of comes down to those two things. Awareness, being able to see it with awareness, and then properly setting a little bit of stuff over there to defend it. Rather than being the kind of guy who just doesn't have good vision. Hold on, let me actually say one more thing. This is a good mindset to have, okay? This is actually really important before I get ahead of myself. You should always be expecting multi-prong harass every game. Don't be surprised by it when it happens. Expect it to happen so that you can properly defend it without panicking to react to it. Because if you actually expect it in the sense that you're like, all right, I'm spreading my creep, and I'm spreading my overlords. And you're looking for it throughout when the periods of time when nothing's happening. You're like, okay, he hasn't attacked me yet. He's going to do it sometime soon. I scouted his base, and it has a starport really fast. It's a 1-1-1 build, hypothetically. So you're like, well, he's got the potential now to Banshee harass me, to Battlecruiser harass me, to Medivac drop me. He's going to do something with the Medivac, or something with the starport, because he made a really fast starport. So you're expecting it. And if you expect it, and then you're like, oh, there it is. I see it now, because I've been expecting it for the last 2 minutes, or the last 60 seconds, or however long. It's way easier to react to it, rather than being like, all right, I'm looking at the middle of the map, and oh god, there's a Liberator field in my mineral line, and it's already sieging my base. Because I didn't notice it. And then as you're dealing with that, you're like, oh god, there's a Hellion run by in my third base, and I just lost another 8 drones. Oh my god. It's like, it gets to a point where you start panicking, and you're like, oh my god, move. And then when you're starting to like panic micro, you micro like shit usually. And then things die way more than they should. And then things just fall apart, and you lose.
Yep. No injects, no creep spread.
Exactly.
Everything.
So you have to literally go into the game right when you start the game. Be like, oh, I found a Terran player. Immediately be like, all right, I'm gonna get harassed a lot. Just expect it, even if the guy is not even a harassing player at all, because if you expect it before it happens and you prepare for it before it happens with a good mindset of how to do it and like the whole vision thing we just talked about, you'll be so much better off at just dealing with crisis management than the complete opposite of being like, oh, a Terran, all right, so I'm just gonna make drones right now and hope for the best, and we'll just see we'll see where we go. And then out of nowhere, things just start falling apart, and you're like, oh my god, like this game got way out of hand way too fast.
Yeah.
So hopefully that helps you out if you kind of adopt that mindset, and then again the pool of units like we talked about.
Yeah, rally into the base. That's something I never thought of doing, and it makes sense because then I can just kind of ignore it a little bit more too.
Yeah, because then you could also get to a stage where you could do this. Okay, here's a quick tip to cap this all off. Let's say your opponent has been harassing you for like 5 minutes straight, and you're now at a supply count where you've defended it well throughout this whole 5-minute time because you've been focusing on it. But now you're like, you know what? Now I'm ready to really take a full big fight here because I have 180 supply or something like that. I'm really high. I'm about to max, and I'm ready to take a fight. Well, now to do this, to like set it up really well, you can do something like this. Okay, he's been harassing bases my main base and my fourth base really hard because those are my outer bases, and those are the ones that get harassed the most. Let's just add in like 1 or 2 spines and 1 or 2 spores at both of those locations, and then let's just make new units and rally. Like you go to your larva and be like, I'm gonna make 10 Zerglings and rally the eggs to my main. I'm gonna make 10 more Zerglings and rally the eggs to my fourth base. You're the static D, and I'm just gonna not even bind it to anything. I'm just gonna leave it. It's just gonna go there. As soon as it's done building, it'll go there. And now I'm gonna focus. I'm gonna grab all my existing units I already have right now, the ones that have already been defending, and I'm gonna go attack him with these. And I'm gonna focus on the attack with these new units. That way, if he still has units dedicated to dropping you or harassing you or doing whatever the hell he's doing, you'll have new little bits of supply with static D supporting them that can defend that, while you're gonna focus on your main army, which is everything that's now reconverged into itself. That was defending drops before. So you hit like a window of attack now, and you can grab it all and send it out. And then as you send it out, your new units can resume the process of what you were doing before. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I haven't actually done that, you know. It's always me F2ing my whole army. Go to the main, go to the fucking third, and then I got no drones. So
yeah.
I should bind the main part of my army, go attack them, and then leave some stuff in the third and the main.
Yeah. So I like that we're getting on this logic train we're on right now, because it's really important for ZVT. ZVT should never be all about one fight and the game's over. It should never be like the term death ball versus death ball. It's really what ZVT really is it's skirmishes everywhere. It's a bunch of little fights happening all over the place, and whoever wins enough of the little fights is going to win the overall game. Because how many turns do you play against that go, you know what? I'm just going to attack one time. Just once up your front of your base with my bio army, and I'm going to hopefully win. Usually when a Terran plays like that, the Zerg is like, oh, I'll just kill that army and I'll win the game now. It's easy. It's not that hard. I've been able to do everything I wanted, and if I'm never distracted, I'm able to overpower you because that's how Zerg works. I can make units faster than you if I'm not disrupted. But when you play Terrans that are the complete opposite of that, and they understand the skirmish mindset, where it's like, oh, I'm getting dropped over there, drop over here, Liberator over there, Hellions over here. Oh my god, it's attacks everywhere, little skirmishes all over the place, and I've actually lost little bits here and there everywhere, and then he pushes. And then you're like, oh, I just don't have enough. I'm just dead now, because this guy did a good enough job picking me apart to then finally kill me. So if you understand that logic of the ZVT playstyle, you play skirmish style Zerg as well until that point when you do the timing, and you'll have a much better success rate if you get used to playing like that.
That's such a gold nugget, man. Just like that high level view of the matchup. Like I just never thought of it that way. I'm like in the weeds all the time.
Yeah, that's how it is. It's because you're focusing on the one fight, and he's focusing on skirmishes.
That's awesome, man.
All right, you ready to keep this going? Ready to start this going again? All right.
I'm at 119.
All right, yeah, same. All right, let's do it. 3, 2, 1, go.
Go.
Yo, Craig, thank you for the sub, dude. All right, so you're doing the same build again. I like it. I really like standard macro openers because I feel like anybody can really execute an all-in, but if you do a standard macro opener, it really helps you understand like how to actually play the matchup. So I think these are perfect submissions for like coaching. It's great.
Good, thanks. And yeah, this one I actually didn't do the hatch before Overlord.
Yeah.
But that's just because I made a mistake.
It's all good. Right now, I'm going to pause it really quick.
Right.
And I'm just going to say right now, this is what I see from this guy's build. Okay? At first, when you flew over his base and you saw 2 barracks, I was thinking to myself, 3-Rax Reaper. It's going to make a 3rd barracks, and it's going to be 3-Rax Reaper. And then he makes a bunker. Now, as soon as you see a Terran making a bunker, the first thing I would do, if I were you, is I would scout south a little bit with the Overlord and just confirm if he has a natural or not. Because if he does, and he's made a bunker like this, and his barracks in the front of his base, this guy, there's 2 ways you could play this right now. Number 1 is you could all-in this guy. You could just be like, you know what, I'm just going to go for a Ravager all-in, I'm going to go for a Baneling all-in, I'm going to do some type of an all-in, and I'm going to try and kill you. Because this looks like a gasless opener to me. If there's a natural. Or what you could do is you could actually be like, you know what I'm going to do now? I'm actually just going to go for a 3rd base and maybe even like a really fast 4th base, because you don't really, like if this was a gasless opener, you really shouldn't be expecting like a standard timing of attack. You should be expecting more of like a defensive Terran who's like he's trying to be greedy, but if you recognize that as Zerg, you could be even greedier than him, which counteracts his plan. This build's super weird by the Terran so far. Like double barracks and bunker at the front, and now he's making breeds too.
Yeah, and you're highlighting a point that's definitely a problem for me, is like, if somebody plays kind of standard, you know, the way the pros play on TV kind of thing.
Yeah.
I get the timings a lot better, but so many people, especially at this, like, at my lower level, they play all sorts of weird shit, and I have no idea how to respond or if my standard play is gonna be good or bad against it.
Yeah. So overall, I don't want to make it too confusing for you. Like I'm gonna pause it really quick while we talk about this because I don't want to miss too much. I don't want to make it too confusing for you to be like, all right, well, do I always have to react differently to everything my opponent does? And the answer, honestly, is no. It's just something to think about, though. Like it's a good way to expand your mindset of how you view StarCraft. But playing like a standard build that you picked up from somewhere, that's like, it's a macro build that has branches where it's like, it opens up with a lot of economy and you can really do anything you want with it. You can go Ling Main Hydra, you can go Ling Main Muta, you can do whatever you want, really. It's a great way to play because even if you play standard, you'll still have a good chance here against someone who does something kind of off the norm. But the biggest thing I would just say to kind of realize here is if your opponent does something really weird and it looks like it's going to be more defensive than something else, you don't
Make drones.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need to have as many like safety checkpoints, is what I'm trying to say. Because all that does is it slows you down for no reason. Like if you scout someone that looks like they're going to be excessively greedy, you don't need to make the early banelings now. You don't need to make like the extra lings to be safe. You can still make those later on, but you don't need to make them before you make the drones up to your decent economy, to where it's like deviating your macro. Because if you actually did something like, you're like, oh, this guy looks like he's making a bunker, he's going to be really passive. He's going for multiple barracks, a command center, and a bunker defense. And now you could have a Ling out in front of his base, like right up front of the barracks. and you can periodically like poke in, not near the bunker, but like near the front of the barracks to be like, are you still there? Does he still have a bunch of units sitting there? And every time you reconfirm that and go, yep, 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 like every like 15 seconds, you're like, all right, drones, 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 because you're confirming that he's still there. He's playing weird, but he's still defensive, and you're being greedy about it.
Hashtag charity.
So you can hit that optimal saturation of like, let's say 3 bases a little bit sooner, which can give you that macro hatch a little sooner, and you will accelerate your path to maxing out faster than you would if you actually played like super standard defensive against a normal timing pace, a normally paced build, basically. If that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, it totally makes sense. And I always prefer, like, if a guy's gonna give me an opportunity to make more drones, I always want to take that, you know?
Yeah. The biggest way to analyze that and just really confirm it again is with the scouting of like the Zergling in front of his base, because it'll make a lot of sense to be like, okay, well, yeah, he's going bio, but he's still there. He's still defending his base. So what I got to focus on as a Zerg here is spreading my creep, so that when he does eventually push, I have a better fight than I would have otherwise if I don't have my creep spread. And as soon as he leaves his base, I explode in unit production, or I explode in unit production if he's still defending his base by the time I hit 3 base saturation, because he's on 2 base saturation. If your opponent's going to defend and keep his army defensive, the perfect way to play it is to saturate 1 base ahead of them and then make units.
Okay. Just writing that down.
It'll help you out a lot, man. I'm glad you're writing it down. It's important, because you can always go, like, I will upload this as well, so you can always go back and rewatch this again if you want. If you're like, I feel like I forgot some of the shit we talked about, I'll have it on my YouTube, so you can always go back and check it out again. But yeah, writing it down it saves you time, because now you can be like, you have a little bit of notes here that you are taking in a matter of seconds, and you're like, oh yeah, that's pretty good. It's a lot faster than sifting through an hour-long coaching video again.
Yeah, and we're getting to GM vibe. This is happening. All right.
Yeah, man. Well, I think you are more than capable with how I've seen you play so far. You just gotta fix some shit and you're good to go, dude.
Sweet. All right. So what time are you at
All right,
on the replay?
I'm at 3:42.
Oh shit, you're way ahead of me. Let me just catch up real quick.
All right. Yo, Billy, thank you for the sub, man. Mr. Q, thank you for the bits. And yeah.
Okay.
Boys,
2x.
thank you. Fucking love you guys. Yep.
3,
right.
3, 2, 1, go.
All right, let's do it. All right, and then again with the same thing we talked about, just keep in mind, if you're gonna scout the natural the way you did, always have a second overlord go to the main. I know this is another replay from before, but just really keep that in mind. It's important if you're gonna scout to the side of the base like that.
Yeah, definitely screwed me again here.
Yeah, because
not having it.
Because you see, he did give you some information by having 2 barracks, a bunker, and a command center, but
emerged.
you actually don't know too much about his overall tech beyond this. Like he might be going for a 3rd CC behind this off 1 gas. He might be going for some big 2 base fatty timing. And now you're in a position where you've made a ton of lings and you're not sure if it's a great idea. It happens to be a great idea because this is actually a 2-1-1. So you've actually counted this build pretty well.
Yeah, so I felt like I scouted that because I saw the 2 racks and the add-on, so I'm like, oh, this is 2-1-1, but CC first. So
did you
I
see
need
the
links
add-ons,
around 5 minutes.
Your overlord never actually saw the add-ons though.
Ah, okay.
In your vision, you've seen the barracks, but you never actually saw the add-ons, which is why.
Okay, I must have assumed it.
Yeah, if you had like a ling, to see that, then yes. If you're like, okay, his first barracks made a reactor, and now his second barracks is starting a tech lab, that would make me. If I were you, I'd be like, okay, yeah, it's very likely going to be a 2-1-1. He just builds in a weird spot in front of his base with his barracks. But yeah, there's always a chance it could have been something. It could be something else. Like this could actually be, if you don't ever see add-ons, it could be something like some Terrans like to do really weird shit where they open up with multiple barracks like this, and they go into full mech. They just make a few Marines out of the first barracks, and maybe even have Marines mixed in with the first push, but it's actually like 3 factories, and it's a Thor build or a mass tank Hellion build or some shit like that.
Right.
So it worked out though. But I would say the mistake that happened here is actually, I'm gonna back the replay up really quickly one time to 5 minutes and 21 seconds.
5:21. Okay.
So I like that you actually are following the medivacs, but the one thing you got to be careful about is cliffs if you do this, because your lings will follow him to the edge of the cliff, and then they will have to run all the way around, because they'll have like the longest distance travel now. Because instead of going straight on the ramp right now, you're gonna go to the edge of that little corner there and then go around the cliff, so it buys him time to start dropping. If you can't get on the Marines by the time he starts dropping like his first or second Marine, it's not worth it to get on the Marines if you don't have banelings.
Okay.
Because what'll happen is the medivacs, they cannot heal while they're dropping Marines. It's just that the medivac will not heal while it's doing that. So that's why if you get on it right away, you're surrounding and killing Marines as they drop, and it's really, really good because you're eliminating Marines really easy. But if you're starting to like run at his Marines, you're not even in range yet, but he's already got like 2 or 3 Marines down on each medevac already on the ground, and you're about to start running at him to engage him. What that really means is by the time your lings actually surround his Zergling, or by the time your Zerglings actually surround his Marines, he will have killed enough of your Zerglings to where you won't even be actually smacking his Marines yet until his like 7th Marine has already now been dropped, which means he's about to start healing his Marines. Because Marines kill the Zerglings pretty fucking fast.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be worth it anymore at that point for you, because now you're going to be fighting a fully boxed in group of Marines that are getting healed by medivacs on the outside, on the outer Marines that are where the surface area of Zerglings are. So he's going to take trades where he's going to kill about 3 to 4 Zerglings for every 1 Marine you kill, which is going to be really bad for you, especially if you only have like you have 26 Zerglings versus 16 Marines. You're gonna lose this fight, because if he's killing like 3 to 4 lings every time 1 Marine dies, it ultimately means he's gonna lose about 5 Marines by the time you lose all your Zerglings, or like he might lose 6 Marines by the time you lose all your Zerglings, which is still a great fight for Terran.
Yep.
So yeah, don't ever try your best to never actually fight the Marines coming out of medevacs with just Zergling if you're not on them like right away, like right as it starts. All right, I'm gonna hit play. We'll see how this goes. We'll just get a visual now.
521, yeah?
Yeah, I'm at 525. I hit play already.
Okay.
So you can see he loses some Marines, but you definitely just lost all your Zerglings there. Stimpack and Medevac are just insane. And if you lose the fight like that, it creates this whole other problem for you. I'm going to pause it again one more time at 556. Because if you think about it like this, okay? You ran by the Marines. You wanted to get on the Medevacs right away, and if he let you do that on the high ground, that would have been great. But because the Marines now started dropping on the low ground, where they had some time to do it before your lings got there again, it would have been so much better for you if you would have actually just said, you know what, fuck it, you can drop all your Marines. I'm actually going to keep these Zerglings alive and run back to my Queens. And now that you're on the ground, I'll use my Queens to support me. I'm going to back up to the Queens and let them smack your Medevacs as you fight me, which is going to give you a situation where even if I lose a big chunk of my Zerglings, you're going to lose a Medevac. Or maybe 2 Medevacs, depending on how long you take this fight for. It's going to be way more pressure for him in that situation.
Okay.
Because like you ran back to the Queens anyways, but you ran back to the Queens with your second round of Zerglings.
Yeah.
And you saw, like, even with your second round of Zerglings, that wasn't even as big as your first round of Zerglings. You pushed it back, no problem. Obviously, a little bit because you weakened the Marine count a little bit. But the bigger part was your Queens actually supported your army. Which, Queens are amazing at supporting your army against Medevac Marine and low numbers.
Yeah, and if I just had a few Banes, it could have been threatening enough he doesn't even want to engage me.
No, that's the point, lad. You only ever want to engage the Marines if they're fully grouped out like that, where it's like, oh, he's going to be on the ground and they're all going to be together. When you engaged him the first time, I would have only said, yeah, that's a good idea, if you had Banes there. Because it puts him on a timer way faster, where he's like, gotta go, get out, go. I can't stay, or I die. And if he does stay, everything dies.
Right.
So that would be fine. But yeah, you gotta be. You gotta be careful about that too, because if you actually if you engage in a weird way where your lings just kind of ran past the Banes for about like 3 seconds, and your lings are engaging way sooner than your Banes are, be careful about that too. Like, be patient to allow your Banes to be right there, then you engage with everything. Don't just send your lings in and be like, engage quickly, and all your lings die anyways. Then he loads up when the Banes get there.
Yeah.
Just you got to be more patient, I guess, here with the lings. Don't feel like you're gonna die, especially if you have plenty of lings like you did. Like you're totally fine.
Right. Okay.
All Alright, I'm gonna resume in 3, 2, 1.
Go.
I like that you're replacing creep though, it's good. Again, I would say that was your biggest weakness last game, so I like to see that you're focusing a bit more on it this time. When the Terran scans, you fix.
I try to. It's gonna become a problem because he keeps on it, and I eventually crumble.
Yeah, All right, I'm gonna watch this for another second here, and I'm gonna explain something to you in just a minute. That's really insightful that you may not think about scans and creep. All right, I'm gonna pause it right now. I'm gonna pause it at 7:24.
All right.
So,
cool.
You got shot by a tank, and I like that you're not panicking again, because if we look at everyone's vision again, you can see, like, right now we're cheating here, but we can see the Terran does not have a third base. This Terran is doing a fatty 2-base timing, which is, it puts the Terran in a situation where, excuse me, if the Zerg does not bleed his army out, the Terran is getting further and further behind. Because every second that goes by, you as the Zerg player will produce faster than the Terran, and we can see that clearly if we look at the economy tab. You are mining 2,700 at the rate he's mining 2,000. That's a lot of bonus money every minute you're getting over him, which is going to add up to a bunch more Lings and Banes in your army. So we're in a great spot for you if you just keep being like, you know what, I'm a chill. I'm gonna chill out. I'm gonna just make my units. I'm gonna chill and keep maxing faster than my opponent. So I like that you actually have Lings kind of on the move here to be like, does he have a third? Looks like you're scouting for a third right now, which I love. That's great.
Yeah.
But here's another thing that I was going to say about the creep that's really, really important. Your response. Thank you for the phrase, dude. So if your opponent is like, okay, this guy's spreading creep a lot. He's spreading creep a shitload. And I need to keep scanning it and getting rid of it. Every time your opponent scans, that's a mule you got rid of right there. It does not cost you anything to put a creep trooper down, because the queen itself is going to get made either way. You want the creep, you're going to make the creep no matter what. It's just part of the Zerg life. But if you're really good at creep spread, and your opponent is really worried about it, which he should be, he's going to be like, oh, well, I could have had 2 mules and 1 scan here, but now I need to have 3 scans. So it's going to make me have a slower build, because I can't have as much money as I would otherwise. And if a Terran has a slower build with income, it's just going to give you better timings as Zerg. Like, creep is actually going to give you an economy lead the better you creep, because the Terran has to waste money to kill your creep. It's actually like 1 mule is worth, I don't even know how much, like 340 minerals or some shit like that every minute. So it makes a big difference. The better your creep is, the more you force him to scan. You should feel every time he scans you, even if it's like, ah, shit, I just spent a lot of time on that creep. Well, if you actually can creep without deviating from your own macro, if you're not like, if you're at that level here where you can creep spread without sacrificing your own macro because you can handle doing that, that's amazing every time you make him scan, because you're just going to fix it and he's going to have to keep wasting more and more money. And then on top of that, if you're like, oh, you didn't take a third either, it's really making it hard for him to maintain full production out of his barracks, because he just doesn't have enough money to do that now, because he's missing so much income that he would have had otherwise.
So not only does the creep slow a push, it also slows his build and his timings. It slows everything.
It slows everything, yep. Like, this is what you should really think about, okay?
It's like I'm fungling his whole existence.
Yeah, literally. Like, every time he scans, you should literally think to yourself, that's like 350 minerals that that thing just cost at 350. Oh, it's a scan, that's 350. That's 350. Sure, it's going to be 350 over the course of 1 full minute or so. It's 220. Never mind. People saying in my chat are saying it's 220. I can't remember exactly. 220 sounds fine. I believe that. So 220 instead. But
Sure.
one mule then is a little bit more than 4 Marines. So if he scans you 3 times, that's like 12. That's like 13 or 14 Marines actually that he no longer has. That would have been there before, because he was like, I'm worried about your creep. And if you just keep fixing it and making it a problem for him that never goes away, it's just, you're just going to be like, wow, your army's just smaller than it should be, because you've been so paranoid about my creep. Because the Terran has to worry about that. It's 2 ways. It's like a 2-way street for Terran. Like, one, he's like, all right, well, I'm going to scan and I'm going to kill your creep, which is going to give my existing units a better fight, because now I don't have to fight on creep as much. But if you're really good at keeping the creep going, he's going to do it again and again and again. And then the Terran's going to get in a situation where it's like, well, I'm going to have a better fight with my existing units because I'm scanning the creep and trying to kill it. But I'm scanning so many times that my army is actually now going to be like 30% smaller than it should be because I can't fucking afford to make my army like I want to.
Right.
So it's huge if you have good creep spread. It's a big advantage for you to just, even if you get scanned, just keep abusing it.
Okay, it's a good. I think that will help me prioritize it in game. You know,
Yeah.
To be able to think of it that way.
Yeah, it's great. It's super good.
Yeah.
All
Nice.
All right, I'm gonna go in 3, 2, 1.
They're attacking your base.
And now he's finally here. You're being patient again, but the biggest thing when you still won the fight, which is great. But the biggest thing I would say you should do when you're being patient like that is hold position your units behind a hatchery, so you don't have a situation where like they run forward, you run back, you run forward, and you get shot by tanks like 4 times. Kind of sucks for you.
Yeah.
But not that bad. Overall not too bad. You still won the fight because you macroed well enough. And then
I learned from your series to make drones after you crush an army.
No, exactly. I was literally just about to say that. I like that you're understanding drone habits. A lot of people are always like, I don't know when to build drones. It's always when you crush an army because now you have a remainder that can crush the next one, and then you have time to squeeze one round of drones in, and then add into your army once more. So you keep a good pace at crushing the army every time.
Yeah.
This one's a little scary though, and again, this is creep. 100% you're creep. That's why you're losing.
Yeah. Oh god.
I like the Banes, but it might be too late.
I do this so much, and it's so embarrassing to actually watch myself do it.
Oh, it's all good. Your priorities are a little mixed up, and I feel like we're kind of figuring out the problem here. And again, your macro's not bad. Your gameplay itself has a lot of potential here to be improved drastically if you just change a couple things, like your creep. The creep is your biggest downfall, for sure.
Okay.
Like these, if your creep was, I'm gonna pause one more time really fast at 11:15.
Yep. Perfect.
If your creep was up to the ramp, if you look to the right of your third and you see those stairs on like the middle part where it's like elevated in the middle of the map.
Yep.
If your creep was like going up those stairs right now, which it should be, because you can see it's already kind of touching the stairs in the top part, you could also very easily be at the stairs at the bottom part as well. If it was there, and this even if the Terran scans, kills it, and then tries to push forward after he kills it, you still have the creep there that's going to be receding as you push. Or at the very least, you have a lot more mobility here to get around him. You would have so much more room to work with because you could also see him coming from a lot further away. So you could, it gives you, it's like the kind of like, it kind of coincides with the mental thing we were talking about before when the guy's multi-pronging you. It just gives you yourself more time to prepare because you're not going to be like, oh shit, he's attacking me and he's hitting my hatchery. Panic. I gotta react to this. Like you have this like sense of urgency where you're like, oh shit, he's here again. He's gonna hit my mineral line. But if your creep is just better, you have so much more of a relaxed feeling where you're like, all right, well, he's in the middle of the map, and I know he's out there because he scanned my creep again, so I can put a little more emphasis to defend my next patch of creep that's a little bit closer to my base. And if he pushes on it to kill it, that's when I swarm him in the big open area of grass and shit. That's like no terrain blockage. And now I can crush him here, and once I crush him here, I can respread my creep to the middle and beyond, and do it again and again and again.
Right.
You're just giving yourself this like panic mode because you're giving yourself minimal map vision with creep. All right,
I see it.
I'm gonna hit play again in 3, 2, 1. Yeah, it's just getting to a situation where you're bleeding out over and over. Because if you look at resources lost, that tells you the picture right there. You've definitely mined more than him, but you're bleeding out so much harder than him because you're taking these panic fights. Actually, pause. This is really good. This is something you were talking about in the beginning. I want to go over. I backed it up to 11:42.
Okay. In there.
All right, so 3, 2, 1, hit play and watch your Lingbane.
Oh,
Pause one more time. And now,
okay.
look. I want you to look back at your natural. All right, not your natural. Sorry, your third base. And look how many units are sitting here. You have like 7 Banes and a little bit of Ling, like 9 Lings.
Yep.
Imagine if the army you sent out to attack his bioforce here was only half as big as it was, or like maybe even a third as big as it was. You would have still had the same effect of blowing up to a bunch of Widow Mines. Because what he did here was he went, oh shit, there's Lings and Banes. Now your Lings, what your Lings are going to do is they're going to set the Widow Mines off because they're really fast. They're going to get in there before your Banes do, and they're going to take the initial shots of the Widow Mines. And now what your Banes do when they follow up the Lings is they allow the Terran to not just stand there with Stimpak and go, I'm going to kill it all before my Widow Mines go off. Because if he does, he's not going to be able to kill the Banes in time as they roll into him, because currently he's killing Zerglings first. So he has to run the bio.
Hey ViBE, how do I sign up for coaching?
It's just going to happen. So if you actually have like some Lingbane going forward, you're still going to set off the Widow Mines, and you're still going to force the bio to run away. And then if you actually set off a lot of the Widow Mines where... I'm going to look at it now. Like, how many Widow Mines does this guy have? He's got 6 still. I'm currently at 1149, by the way.
Okay, yep.
He's got 6 Widow Mines, and 5 of them... Or no, sorry. He's got 5. I paused. I just went on for one more second here. Because there was one Baneling over a Widow Mine that was about to explode. So now I'm at 1151. And now all said and done here, he's got 5 Widow Mines, and there's only 1 Widow Mine left that can actually shoot here. So you still successfully set off all the Widow Mines, which now gives you a 29, or more like a 25 second window of time where he can't shoot again, because this thing is on a 29 second overall cooldown. And if you send your next wave in right after the first wave, you'll probably be sending in like 4 or 5 seconds after your first wave went. So he's got a lot less AoE power to his army because you just wasted his AoE. And if your army is way bigger now, like if your follow-up army to this is actually the real army and not what you just sent in first, you're going to be swarming a much smaller army with the brunt or the bigger force of your army. And if you have an overseer with it, it doesn't matter if he does or doesn't have drilling claws. You at the very least kill all the Widow Mines. At the very least.
You know, it's so sick that you even said like the goal is to set off the Widow Mines. Like you just said successfully set off the Widow Mine. Like I never think of it that that's how you fight a Widow Mine.
Yeah.
That I'm trying to set them off as cheap as possible. Like I never even really thought of it that way.
Yeah.
I'm just like, hopefully the Banes kill them.
Because now that he doesn't have, like his bioforce is so reliant on the Widow Mine AoE to actually like thin your army out, because he has a smaller bioforce because he's investing into Widow Mines, and he's not, like, he's still gonna have a good amount of bio, but it is reliant on Widow Mines, because now that's his. There's 2 parts to it. One is he has a little bit less, not by much, but it is maybe like 20 supply lower, which is it's significant, and the other part is if the Widow Mines are on cooldown, there's nothing that's going to kill your army with AoE now, like a siege tank smacking your Banelings over and over. Like, it just doesn't exist. So his bio is completely reliant now to kill the rest of your army by itself, which means this guy basically needs to have like godlike splits, or he's going to lose a shitload of bio. So if you set them off first and then you swarm second, it's going to be so much more of a difficult situation for the Terran to be in to actually deal with it at that point. The only way you could actually ever really fight against Widow Mines and just like shove him backwards with your first part of your army would be if you were going for a Hydra Lurker style. If you had like Lingbane Hydra Lurker, or just like Lingbane Lurker, or something like that. Because then you could actually like root the Lurkers just barely out of Widow Mine range. And because Widow Mine has about like 6, and a Lurker has a Widow Mine has like, it's like 5.5, I don't know, it's like just under 6. It's weird. Because it can shoot a Marine, but it can't like shoot a Hydra. It's fucking weird. But you could actually, what I'm trying to say here is, if you made a unit that could siege the Widow Mines outside of their range, you could easily push it back then, because the Widow Mines get killed outside of range. But your army has nothing like that. Muta Lingbane, none of it can outrange a Widow Mine. So you have to either set them off or burst them down before they go off. And if he has a spread of Widow Mines like this, the only way you could ever burst a Widow Mine down before it goes off is with the mutas. And you don't have enough mutas to do that anyways, so it's irrelevant. You need to have like 10 mutas minimum to do that. So your goal then should be to set them off cost efficiently, which is what we just talked about, you know, and going from there.
Okay.
All right, I'll go ahead and hit play again at 11:51 in 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
But yeah, you're just getting to that bleed out situation here, and you've actually, like, even though you've killed it all, you're getting to a point now where they're rearming because you never had enough to swarm again, and that's when Widow Mines become truly scary. Because yeah, the Widow Mine now, he's gonna still make more, and now he still has the previous one, so now it's gonna be like it could be like a 10 Widow Mine army rather than like a 5 Widow Mine army.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and pause it one more time now at 13:28. 13:28.
Okay.
So I'm gonna really quickly talk about Widowmine one more time, and I'm gonna analyze it a little bit more. The way a Widowmine works with targeting is no two Widowmines will ever target the same unit, which is why Zerglings are so good here, because Zerglings are in numerous number. Basically, there's so many of them. Even if you're sending in a small force, if the guy has 25 Marines, 5 Marauders, and 10 Widowmines, and you send in 15 Zerglings and 6 Banelings, or 8 Banelings, that's still such a small army for Zerg compared to what the Terran has. But if you actually, if you try to micro like this, where you send in your Lings initially in a big clump in the front, and you green box it in a way where you grab like some of your Lings and send them up. You're not even trying to hit the bio really at this point. You're just running within Widowmine range. You grab some of the Lings, send them up, some of the Lings, send them down. You accelerate how many Widowmines are going to shoot guaranteed, because the perfect thing about a Widowmine is if the Widowmines are close enough to where they all target roughly around the same time, if you're not directly standing on top of one of the Widowmines, to where the Widowmine literally goes and shoots and it immediately just connects, because your Zergling is like standing on top of it like a landmine. If it's actually got a little bit of range to cover, to where it hits the Zergling, just maybe even like a 3 range difference, where like it's like or like maybe 4 range, like the attack range of a roach or some shit. It's not even, doesn't have to be that far. If it shoots, and in the time of the projectile traveling towards your Zerglings, other Widowmines also then shoot, every Widowmine will target its own unit. So if you can keep your Zerglings alive just for like 2 seconds by splitting them up just a tad, just even like a two box split, you can set off like triple the amount of Widowmines than you would if you just had them all in one clump. So that's something you need to very much like work on microing against Widowmines, because it's huge. It changes everything so much more, because like the 1 second difference in a Widowmine shooting your initial box of Lings, or 2 to 3 boxes of Lings, changes the difference of 1 Widowmine going off to like 8 Widowmines going off. Because again, if you have 10 Widowmines and 10 Zerglings, and 10 Zerglings run over 10 Widowmines, each Widowmine at first will all target their own Zergling, because that's how the unit works. It won't all target one Zergling and just be like, that guy's gonna shoot and we're done. Like if you actually stay at max range but just barely in range of the Widowmines, all 10 Widowmines will shoot and blow up all 10 Zerglings, and all Widowmines will then be on cooldown. So it's super.
I didn't know that they don't target the same unit.
Yeah, they don't, and they all shoot at the same time as well.
Yeah.
If they're targeting, like each one has its own target, and then it has like a 2-second dead timer where it's like 1, 2, shoot. So if you can have units all around the same time in the same range, and you can split them up just a tad, so that the first Widowmine that targeted the first time, like, you know what I mean? Like if he has 1 Widowmine in the front and 1 Widowmine in the back, and if the first Widowmine in the front AoE splashes everything in the front, the ones in the back then go, oh wait, cancel our shot, it's dead now, let's no longer fire. But if you split just a second, just like a little bit longer, and then all of them go, all right, let's shoot now at the same time, because the projectile has that travel time where you can make up the difference of where they're placed while you're running into them, then they all fucking shoot, and then you waste like every Widowmine. So
definitely will work on that.
Yeah, practice that. It's if you can do it well, Widowmines are gonna feel like a joke. Like they're gonna feel like the worst unit Terran can make.
Do you use any kind of like unit tester maps to do that, or just like find a friend to build Widow Mines against me, basically?
Use whatever you want. You could, in a situation like practicing your micro against a Widow Mine, you could totally use a unit tester because you don't have to actually micro Widow Mines when they're burrowed. It's one of those units that just micros itself. So yeah, you could totally do that.
All right.
All right. So now that you know that, it's really like knowing like knowledge. This is like one of those situations where knowledge is power, and if you just know how the unit works, you know how to abuse it more and more. So now that you know, now you can abuse it a little bit more.
Sweet.
All right, I'm gonna resume in 3, 2, 1. Yo, AU throw. Thank you for the sub, dude. Much love, and Sifu Eggplant. Thank you for the bits. I'll tell you about the coaching in just a minute.
So at this point, I'm pretty stressed in the game. You know, even though I probably shouldn't be, I am. When I start F2ing and not binding my army anymore, I'm just like stressed.
Yeah, no, I can understand it. You're in a situation where you look at resources lost. It's you're running into Widow Mines over and over, and these things have drilling claws now, so they're cloaked. If you don't have an overseer around, if you start allowing the Terran to win trades here and there, and you don't clean up the trash, the Widow Mines basically, they're gonna stay there forever. And if this happens 3 or 4 times, it's gonna make the whole game feel way more overwhelming because everywhere you go is like, oh, Widow Mine shot me, another Widow Mine shot me, another Widow Mine shot me, and you're gonna take all these horrible trades where the Terran's literally doing nothing. He's like, oh, that was from a fight 5 minutes ago, and I'm still getting good trades out of it. Cool. He's not actually paying attention at all. He probably doesn't even know he's getting good trades.
Yeah. I pretty much just like stabilize and beat him here. I don't think there's anything. I think there's a couple more micro opportunities with the Widow Mines, but really it's just me getting destroyed by them.
Yeah. You're definitely taking way worse trades than him in fights, but you're still keeping a supply lead because your macro is better than his. Which at the end of the day, so far in this game, you're winning because you're a better macro player.
Well, bronze to GM.
Yeah, man. It pays off, dude. It's super important.
Otherwise, this game would have ended at the 5-minute mark with a Baneling bust that either worked or didn't, you know?
Yeah. And then at this point overall, I'm going to pause one last time here. So the biggest thing for you, if we are looking at your vision here, it's that once again, you're really blind. And I'm going to prioritize this one more time because it's the most important thing I see that you need to improve on. Again, it's your creep spread and your overlord placement. Other than your like 20% to 25% of the map in your corner, and some of your corners still even fogged out, you don't actually see very much, and your bases aren't even fully touched together. Like I know you just took the bottom left base, but the way creep should work, a good pacing of your creep should be like this: your main and your natural and your third base are never going to be safe in creep. That should never happen because you make those bases before you make your queens in a standard game. But every base after that should actually have creep at the bare minimum touching it as you take the hatchery, or should have coverage of creep ahead of it when you take the hatchery. So if we're looking at like your base in bottom left here, the one that is just now getting saturated, that base actually should have creep all the way down to like even like the next base below it, and somewhere in the middle of like the 6 o'clock base, the very bottom middle one, there should be creep over that one too. Like you should have a lot of coverage in front of the bases that you expand into later on in the game, because when you think about it like this, if a game opens up really early and you're taking your first 3 bases and you don't have creep covering your bases, that's okay, because the only thing your opponent could do to harass that is all in it. Like the only thing that could actually attack your hatchery when it doesn't have creep coverage is like a cannon rush or like a proxy Rax or something that's like really, really aggressive, which is you can't really help that. That's just how the game works. It's part of the game. And then you know, hopefully your overlords will identify that for you instead of the creep to help you out and deal with it and properly go from there. But from this point on, when it gets to the point where it's like 6 minutes, 7 minutes, 8 minutes, 9 minutes, whatever, anything later on in the game, everything is fair game. There's no guarantees at all anymore. This guy could have Banshees. This guy could have Liberators. He could have BCs. He could have Bio. He could have anything. Anything that his race could do. Anything could be happening. Depending on what you've seen so far. Like, obviously, you can kind of rule out certain things. If you're like, he's going Bio, he's probably not going to have mass Banshees. But, like, you know, that's, like, logical. But still, like, he could have things attacking you, no matter what they are, at some point in time. And if your creep at a new base is not covered at all, there's a very high chance that base could just get eliminated before you can save it. So there's no safety net here. You're playing like this super risky game now as Zerg because you've neglected your creep. Whereas if you actually prioritized the creep before and you're taking hatcheries and like a safety spider web of creep, basically, there's no way that base is ever going to get killed without even a chance of you defending it. Because at the very least, you're going to be like, oh, my creep is going to get killed 2 screen lengths away from this hatchery, which gives me 45 seconds or 30 seconds of time to prepare a defense for that new economy, which could make or break the game right now.
Right.
And those, then the last thing too is those bases are also really, really important to keep alive the later you go in the game, because if we take one really quick look at your main, your natural, and your not so much your third, but look at your main specifically. It's the biggest example I want to give you here. You start mining out, so the game gets put in a situation where you have to rely on bases that are more exposed, but they don't have to be exposed if you have creep spread. Like, you can defend them way easier if you just have vision. And also mobility, which the creep gives double benefits here. So super important to always have the mindset of my future bases beyond my third base should always be being built in a safety net rather than being built in the middle of fog.
That's a really good way to visualize it.
Because again, this is exactly why I wanted to pause it too, because we're talking about your bottom left base. But look at your top middle base. You had about half a second to react to that, because you came out of fog, which was what your hatchery generated for the creep there. That was it. You have no other way to realize that that's happening. So there's a guarantee this base dies if he attacks it. Even though your army is pretty close to it. Your army's just like 3 seconds distance away to defend that. But you don't have 3 seconds. You have about half a second to defend it.
So brutal.
So yeah, creep is your biggest weakness. If there's anything to work on here from after this lesson's over, is make that a bigger priority for you to fix that, and it'll help you so much.
Okay.
All right, and we can just let it play from here and go to the end. So I'm gonna start it in 3, 2, 1.
But yeah, nothing really interesting. I just roll them over here. It's over.
Yeah. We just gotta see it, dude. I want to see your ultras, your hard work.
Alright. I don't think their 3/3 even kicks in. Oh, it's about to.
You're under attack. Mineral siege depleted.
Another trick too. I'm gonna give you a tip here. When this game's over, for how to deal with widow mines. So yeah, cool. You killed. Oh, look at those ultras. Oh my god, man. Just
Nice.
cleave them up, dude. If you ever get in a situation where you're like, you know what, this guy has way too many widow mines and I cannot deal with this. This is ridiculous. There's so many. Here are some interesting ways to deal with creeps, or to deal with the widow mines cost efficiently. The first and best one is get a greater spire and make an overseer literally follow a broodlord. Just literally right click a broodlord with 1 or 2 overseers and let it be. And every time you attack, move forward, the overseer will give your broodlords vision of a widow mine before the broodlord itself flies into it. So you can move across the map and widow mines will die. And then if there's a shitload of widow mines near the first one you see, the broodlings will set off the widow mines as well, which are free units. They don't cost anything. So it's the easiest way to deal with that shit above all else. The second way, which is a little bit more costly, but still better than running out your whole army into it, would be if this guy's the kind of player who is going for mass widow mines, and let's say you're like maxed out and you're afraid to fight and you don't have broodlords, just bring like 10 overlords and fly them into them. You can remake those overlords, but if you actually lose 1,000 resources of overlords and you set off a bunch of his widow mines, which then in turn saves a bunch of your army for the actual fight, and you crush his army because of that, because now he's got a bunch of dud widow mines for the next 25 seconds or so, and you take this massive trade that's way better than otherwise it would have been, because a lot of your Banes are now still alive, a lot of your Lings are still alive, because you might have ran into them otherwise. Then you don't have to, remaxing your overlords, basically rebuilding the overlords back up to a 200 supply could actually be way cheaper than remaking a whole brand new 70 supply army of like Ling Bane. to, you know, deal with his new army again. Because it's like a cascading trade effect where if you set off the Widow Mines, which also then makes you take a great trade against his bio, that's way better than wasting a lot of your units against a bunch of Widow Mines and then taking a poor trade against his bio.
Yeah, it makes like I've always thought of Widow Mines as like just a unit to try to kill. I've never thought of it as it's something I have to disable before I fight.
Yeah.
Like that's a really different way for me to think about it.
Yeah.
So, that's good.
So yeah, when it comes to mass Widow Mines, those two ways would be great. Another way, a third way, which is even more expensive, but you can keep these units alive, would be if the guy has like 15 Widow Mines in like a minefield in front of his army, and you have like 5 infestors, you could actually just throw a bunch of infested Terrans out there, and they will set off Widow Mines even though they're still in eggs. And it can,
oh really?
Yeah, an egg of an infested Terran will set off Widow Mine. It doesn't have to actually wait to spawn and then set it off. And then you could run your infestors away back home, and then, you know, or keep them there if they have more energy for fungals or some shit. But yeah, that would also be good. It doesn't. You don't have to actually lose the infestors to set Widow Mines off. So that could also be good.
I've been trying to add infestors and play with them. I'm still pretty clunky with them though.
Yeah, you could do that. The biggest thing of all, I would say, I would recommend is again the Broodlord though. Just make like 5. Don't have to make like 20 of them or 15. Just make like 5. And just every time you want to fight the Terran in a late game, if you are in a position where you're like, God damn, I can't ever break this guy. He always has so many fucking Widow Mines. Just make like 5 Broodlords and A move wherever you want to go. And like I said, the biggest part about it is just have an Overseer following your Broodlord. And then you'll set off Widow Mines all day. And then if the Terran is like, let's kill the Broodlords, then you can fight him if he stims forward to try and fight your Broods. And if he like starts running away, run away as well. Don't actually chase him over a bunch of Widow Mines. Proceed to let your Broodlords push the Widow Mines out again. And if he comes forward, you go forward. If he goes back, you go back. Until the point where there's no more Widow Mines, then just run him over. Just run at him until you surround him and kill him. So there's, and then again, the biggest one also is you can just try to micro. Try to split up a little bit of your units and then set them all off and then go with your real army. And you'll have...
Yeah, well, I definitely need something for the mid game, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Micro is going to be that.
Yeah, and like you said, you can practice it in the unit tester and it'll help you out a lot.
Okay, now on this matchup, so other ways that this could play out, like let's just say that I didn't kill this guy. What happens to me a lot is they'll have, now they have 3/3 bio with a lot of Marauders and medivacs. And basically I just feel like nothing is killing them and they just run away from my Broodlords and drop me all over the place. So I literally have no idea what I'm supposed to do once it gets to that point.
That's when you could so you said you'd like to go Ling Bane Muta. If your opponent's going to be the kind of guy that's going to just go, oh, Broodlords, let's just go counter drop everywhere now. You didn't make mass Broodlords, you only made 5. So it's not your whole army. You could then just go into this mode where you split up your Lings to absorb drops and you have your Mutas chase medivacs and kill medivacs. And then you could even just be like, while you're doing this, while the Terran's basically throwing his army away, send your Broodlords back home. Just fly them home. Deal with the drops. Deal with all, like, kill drops one by one with your Mutas. And then the easier this will be even easier for you, the better your vision spread is. Because if you have a lot of Overlord spread, you'll see wherever the medivacs fly to. And if you have a lot of creep spread, you'll have easy access to get on the medivacs every time they come to ground. Or you'll see the medivacs as well with your creep spread. But then the Mutas can kill them all. And then once you kill, like, and if you also have, like, let's say 15 Mutas with like +2 weapons, you're going to be popping medivacs pretty fucking fast with those Mutas. And then once you kill the medivacs and you get rid of a big, large amount of his counterattack, reset the Broodlords to attack him again and recommit to fighting him again. And keep repeating the process. If he's like, no, I'm going to drop you again, send your Mutas back and go kill him. And you could always leave, like I said before, some units, like 20 supply of Lings around your bases. Just like 10 supply here in my main, which is like 15 Lings and 5 Banes. And then you can have like 15 Lings and 5 Banes at your other side of the map, at like your 5th base or your 4th base. Mixed in with like a couple of Spines and Spores where he's probably going to drop you. And then every time he does drop you, attack it with that. And then if it's like 1 medevac, it easily gets cleaned up. If it's like 5 medevacs, well then you could bring the majority of your Lings over there and deal with it. And you also, if you have good vision, you should see if it's 5 medevacs before it gets there. Or if it's 1 medevac. You know what I mean?
Yep. And I guess like related to that. So I mean, some games like this Terran was on top of killing my creep spread, and he killed my creep queens. Like usually when that happens, I'm just too flustered to like remake the queens and then do the creep. But
Yeah.
even sometimes like I'll have reasonable. It's definitely a weakness, but my question is, a lot of times even if I do see it on the minimap, like I didn't actually catch it. So do you have a tip on like when I should be looking at the minimap? Because I do miss a lot of things.
Every time you're not doing anything. Like if there's a big fight going on, obviously you're gonna be a little bit focused and a little bit fixated. But every time you're not, like you're just doing your build as you're doing it. Like I'm spreading creep, I'm making drones, I'm injecting my hatcheries. You should be like glancing at the minimap, just like literally every like 2 seconds or 3 seconds, pan your eyes at it. At first, it's gonna be hard. I'm gonna tell you right now. At first, you're gonna be like, "This is so fucking hard to always look at the minimap and just keep looking at it," and it might even make StarCraft not as fun for you at first. But you'll get to a point because you'll always be. I don't know. Some people find it really annoying to look at the minimap a shitload, but you'll get to a point where you're gonna start actually noticing things on the minimap out of your peripheral, than not. Like I'm at a level right now for me where I don't actually ever realize I look at the minimap, but I catch a lot of shit on it because I see it in my peripheral all the time. It just happens. But I don't ever find myself seriously just like staring at the minimap for like 5 seconds at a time and then looking at the screen and then staring at the minimap. Like it's more just like a quick glance.
Okay, yeah, I think I just have terrible habits because like I know sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm gonna work on looking at the minimap, and then I'm not looking at my money properly, and I'm, you know, floating a shitload. So.
Yeah. At first, it's going to feel weird because you're not going to really understand the pacing with your eyes about how you should be, you know, like how long is too long. But literally, look, when you look at the minimap, what you're looking for mainly is red. If you don't see any fucking red blobs, you're fine. But if, you know, if you do, obviously fixate a bit more on that and be like, what is that? Look at it more. Like click on it or something on the minimap and go to it. But if you don't, or if you know what it is by like, oh, it's just an SCV sitting there. I know what that is. It's fine. But yeah, you just want to glance at it and look for blobs. Look for like miscolored blobs. And again, when you look at it, it's about for a total of 1 second, if even that, like half a second. There's a quick scan of the minimap. And trust me, looking at the minimap is 1,000 times easier the more vision you have. Because it's just kind of the way the eyes work. Everybody's eyes work the same. If you have a shitload of fog, and in this fog you have previous red boxes that you've scouted before, which are your opponent's bases on his side of the map, and then you have a little bit of like no creep spread basically, which is shitloads of fog, and then your base. It's way harder to distinguish what the hell's actually happening on that kind of a map than if you have the entire map revealed and it's literally purple everywhere. And little purple everywhere, which is creep, with little green dots scattered throughout all of it. And then you're like, oh, look at that red dot in there. It's going to stand out way harder than if you have fog everywhere. When you have fog everywhere, it's way harder to distinguish. Like, you know, it's just harder on your eyes to be like, oh, it's hard. Like, I can't pick up red dots as easy. Because it's already, the whole fucking minimap is so dark anyways that you're like, it just makes it harder to quickly look at it and distinguish, we're good or we're not good. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I also think that my creep spread is bad because I'm not looking at the minimap, so I'm not noticing how in the dark I act.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. To be honest, I would say ZVT is probably the most minimap-based matchup for Zerg as well. Because, like I said before, it is a skirmish game. It's not a game of deathball. The games of deathball usually are more screen-based. Like when you're playing against a Zerg vs Zerg, and you're both going Roach Hydra or Roach Ravager, and you're smacking each other in the middle of the screen. You're not really looking at the minimap in that situation. You're more looking at, like, who's going to corrosive bile the other one, or who's going to have a better concave, and I need to make sure I'm not taking a bad fight. But against Terran, it's way less about the engagement, and it's more about the setup. Like, against Terran, you're more focused on, like, am I okay on this side of the map? Am I okay on that side of the map? Do I have creep going over this way? Is there a drop over here? Is there a Liberator over here? Is there this over there? Like you're almost playing the game in ZVT off the minimap half the time by sending things up there, sending things down here, sending things over there. And then finally, when you see on the minimap that a big ass blob is attacking you because it's this real push, finally at some point in the game, then you focus on the screen for all of like 20 seconds and then you go right back to minimap play a lot of times, like fixating a lot more on the minimap about like what's going on and shit like that.
Okay, sounds good, man.
Yeah, it's just because it's just the way the matchup works. Terran excels when they force you to split your army up a lot more. That's just how bio works.
All right, yeah, so I gotta expect it, protect those outer bases, creep spread.
Yeah, man. Creep spread's the biggest one. Focus on that, and it'll fix a lot of your problems. Like your panic mode situation will go away a lot if you have good creep. It's seriously like such a good feeling as Zerg when you're like, okay, my creep is amazing, and I have no worries at all. There's nothing attacking me, and I know that it's not a chance, it's a guarantee, because I can fucking see it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll definitely take that away. Work on the creep spread. And I even have some of your viewers are messaging me saying that they're offering to be my practice partner and make widow mines against me. So that's good.
Nice, man. That's good shit. The VFam.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, maybe I'll just work on this for like a month or so, and then we can do another one for Protoss.
Yeah, sounds good to me, dude.
All right, cool. Anything else you think I should know before I hit the ladder?
Yeah, well, all I was gonna ask you is if you had any extra questions about anything, we could talk about it. Otherwise, I think you're good.
I mean, I have millions for the other matchups. I'm just running through.
Yeah, I would say hold those for now, because if I start telling you about other races, it might start shoving some of the information we just talked about Terran out of your mind.
Yeah.
So just let it kind of like sink in and digest it, and then go from there.
All right, awesome, man. Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem, dude. Thanks for getting a coaching lesson, and good shit, dude. It was
All
good.
right, sounds good, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, later, bro.
Cheers, dude.